ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरू श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेमा प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरकृष्णे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचलनिवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणम्। We are continuing with our meditations on the Die Before You Die series by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. Today we are discussing meditation 14. The things we leave behind. The Srimad Bhagavatam, an ancient Vedic scripture, there is a section that describes the character and qualities of Tirtha Maharaj. It discusses his very auspicious birth and equates his qualities to other kings and personalities who preceded him. His death is also simultaneously prophesied. This reminds us of the inevitability of death. When one meets death, one must leave behind many possessions, associates, and other attachments. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. Parents make numerous sacrifices for their children. Most would sacrifice their own lives. Nevertheless, when the children start school, go to college, move out, marry, and so on, the parents will have to accept separation. Normally, they see their children as their property and as an extension of themselves. People obviously want to stay in the control of their properties, but when death comes to the parent or the child, They must honor the full separation. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, uh, this is as such fourth year, fifth year class, BT Swami. Monopu can attend any class. Right. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. It is natural for each living entity to seek out a special partner. Many feel that one day they will in fact meet their soulmate. We are made for love and we are all starving for love. However, what we normally consider love is lust, the fulfillment of our egocentric, selfish desires. Many people spend their entire lives looking for and even waiting for that special person to descend into their lives. Most keep thinking he or she has finally arrived just to later become more and more disappointed. A few who do seem to find that special lover become even more upset, sad, and disappointed when he or she ultimately dies. The more wonderful the connection, the more painful the permanent separation. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. Most people spend the majority of their quality hours working at their jobs instead of having a job. Instead of having a job, people often think that they are their jobs. Perhaps they have studied very hard to become competent in their profession, made many huge sacrifices, passed many tests, accomplished outstanding achievements. However, at some point in the near future, when death comes, the job and all things associated with it will be left behind. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. In today's society, it is so important to have a functional, secure residence. The mortgage payments, repairs, taxes, and other costs involved in the maintenance of a home can be extremely demanding. The larger and more opulent the house, the more care and attention it demands from the owners. Not only does a home require interior decoration, the owners must clean it or have it cleaned regularly. The apartment, house, or mansion is like a very greedy, demanding living entity who is never satisfied and always wanting for service, waiting for service. Although owners give special care to their residents, it spend years, decades acquiring things to decorate the house. When death comes, they will have to permanently separate from their residence. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. There are others who give more attention to decorating their bodies. They have closets full of clothes and drawers full of jewelry, cosmetics, and other items. Such people keep up with the latest styles, love to shop, and love to make others envious of what they wear. Some are not only obsessed with what they put on their bodies, but what they do to their bodies as well. They may go on many diets, exercising religiously, while others may visit plastic surgeons regularly for modifications and adjustments. Regardless, no matter how much they decorate and modify the body, the end result is massive deterioration and death. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul and who have fully surrendered, the hardest attachment to leave behind is wealth and close friends. They are somewhat similar. We identify ourselves according to our possessions, especially our finances. We feel secure or insecure due to our financial status, as our money and financial assets are connected with the confidential aspect of our lives. Just as we share so many confidential things with our closest friends and they are with us, and just as when one is facing various difficulties, there will be still some solace when one remembers his or her stocks, bonds, gold, diamonds, or real estate that can be accessed when needed. Close friends serve the same purpose. They are on the reserve, waiting and available to assist in any way they can. It is hard for most people to appreciate the existence of both of these confidants, but sometime in the near future, when death comes, we will have to leave behind these highly valued supports, securities, and intimate friendships. However, those who understand the inevitability of death and the eternality of the soul, and who have fully surrendered to the Lord's arrangements, will not be disturbed about what is left behind. I am that lowly beggar who will also die in the near future, who will leave possessions, associates, attachments, and relationships behind. You have prepared me to not be disturbed by what I leave behind, for I will take your prayers and love with me. How can one not be disturbed by what one has to leave behind? The nature of attachment in this world is such that it puts the living entity in such a state in which he can experience more and more pain. As Maharaj was explaining, that more one is attached, more it is going to be painful for him. Why? Because material attachments creates material attachments create a state of dissociation from a holistic perspective of life. And because there is dissociation from a holistic perspective of life, therefore any such attachment is never going to be stable. Any such attachment. All these avenues of material attachment are very narrow. So narrow that we cannot stabilize. No one can stabilize in that. Therefore, many such attachments actually, what to say of getting lost in future, but many such attachments actually, even while it is there, one may get so much obsessed by it that again it stops giving even the temporary benefit what one needs or what one wanted in the first place. Like say for example, Maharaj was mentioning one avenue. Maharaj is mentioning people get too much attached to the body in terms of what diet they have to take, exercising and so on, decorating the body and so on. Now if you see, say for example, so there are some people who are figure conscious, now actually a focus on body, the purpose of focus on body is to ensure that okay, one is in good health, say for example. But sometimes people, we have seen sometimes people become so conscious of health, say for example, that they become so conscious of health that it disturbs their health. How? Like we have seen sometimes like I have heard sometimes sometimes some Matajis, they are so much conscious that they should be slim, that they hardly eat anything, so much so that they get malnutrition. Similarly, I have seen devotees, sometimes they become so much conscious of what they should eat and what they should not eat, that the diet should be so much sattvic only, so much calorie only, or so much that their body becomes so fragile. Any discrepancy here and there, and the body is not able to tolerate. The body is not able to tolerate. So, this obsession of attachment is a painful experience. It's painful for the present moment, it's painful for future. Similarly, people get so much attached to wealth, so much that they start spoiling their health for the sake of wealth. And if they spoil their health, that will in turn spoil their wealth later. Because if your health gets spoiled, then you won't be able to get wealth further, is it not? And if your health gets spoiled, then that will drain a lot of wealth also, even to maintain the spoiled state of health, or no, to that state and prevent it from further degradation. So the point is that this obsession is very painful. It's so narrow that it can never stabilize us. It is so narrow. Any such obsession like that is so narrow that it can never stabilize us.
Hello, Moto. Hello, Moto.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll call her. So, yeah. That attachment is so narrow actually that it can never stabilize us. Similarly, even Maharaj is mentioning about attachment to say a partner, the soulmate, somewhere somehow so now even now keeping so it's just like now if you try to see that this whole drive of searching a soulmate, now this is also that all the expectations what one had in his life, one is one is just keeping all that expectations. Expectations actually keep piling up like a mountain, is it not? Okay, how should people behave with me? How should people deal with me? How should people consider me? And how I should be treated? And all those expectations keep piling up throughout life like a mountain, like that. And all kinds of mistreatments again, re-emphasize and reinforce, and this mountain keeps growing like that. And the soulmate concept is what? Then you want to search one person on whom you can dump all this mountain. And if it is Mount Everest, it's a whole lot of it's a whole huge mountain. You want to dump that mountain on that person. Any living entity will get crushed, is it not? Like that. It's it's not a pile of thermocols. It's a rocky mountain, because a person has so many pent up feelings, so many expectations which were not satisfied, and one wants a perfect soulmate who can satisfy everything. So it's a perfect plan to it's a perfect plan to pulverize and crush the other person that way. So that's what happens actually. That's why one lands in more and more disappointment. The disappointment is not coming because of the other person. The disappointment is coming actually ultimately because of that Mount Everest of expectations. That's the point. Nobody can fulfill that. Nobody can fulfill that. So this attachment game is a very narrow lane actually. This whole game of attachment is very, very narrow. Very, very narrow. Similarly, friends, very, very narrow. Bhagavatam explains all these are fallible soldiers. Soldiers because they look like they're giving support, but fallible. Why fallible? Because when you need them, they are not there. Like say for example, friends. If you want to give a treat, so many friends will be available, is it not? You know, if you just want to have a frivolous time, do some ha ha he, everybody okay, is it not? So just because somebody is laughing at with you, that doesn't mean that he will be a very good support. But when one is in need of no, when one is in a turmoil situation, or when one is broken down situation, then nobody will come near, is it not? So these are fallible soldiers actually. This whole thing is very narrow, very, very narrow. It cannot stabilize us. And therefore, one needs to understand. And the more we get caught up in this game, the more we get caught up, the more it is going to be painful. Because there is going to be separation ultimately. People want to say, for example, like say for example, cosmetics. Now people want to simply patch up, or pin up the so-called beauty. But we have to understand it's not lasting, is it not? It's not lasting. It's not lasting. People want to remain young. But the irony of life is that even when you are 25, 27, you may get white hair.
Even 5, 10 years.
Yeah. One may say that, so people get obsessed. People get obsessed. Like I had heard some people and they were feeling that they don't want, they want to shave every day. They don't want to, why? Because the white hairs are coming in the beard, like that. They want to shave every day. But even people who are 27 have that whiteness. So it's like it's a whole ridiculous game actually. So the facial beauty is not lasting. What Bhagavatam explains, the beauty of the heart is lasting. Therefore, the Acharyas explain that a Vaishnava becomes beautiful not by his facial expressions, but a Vaishnava becomes beautiful by his wonderful qualities. Now the qualities are lasting. Nobody can snatch it from a person, is it not? Bodily beauty not lasting. Bodily beauty will change, is it not? When there is cold season, then the skin becomes dry, is it not? Like that. And there is so, the bodily beauty will not be lasting, is it not? But the beauty of the heart is lasting. And that's what, that's where we have to understand that what is valuable is that which is lasting. Is that which is lasting. This life should be taken as a journey. Many times we have heard that. Scriptures explain that. Now in the journey, now what matters is, are we progressing? Not. So the journey of life is to awaken the nature of the soul. And therefore what matters is that are the features of the soul blossoming or not. That is what is most important. Are the features of the soul blossoming or not? So when one is in a journey, then there is a basic consciousness which one should be having, and that is one should keep moving ahead, is it not? The only consideration in a journey should be how to keep moving ahead, moving ahead, moving ahead, moving ahead, is it not? One cannot just chill out. Okay, if you get a scenic place, sometimes people get down from their vehicle, take a snap, take a photograph, is it not? Just sit down for some time and then move ahead, is it not? One cannot say, okay, it's a nice scenic place, I'll just stay here only. That doesn't work out, is it not? One has to move ahead. So similarly, we have to see that in life, whichever trajectories and whichever roadways we pass through, we have to see that we keep moving ahead. At the back of the mind, there should be the consciousness that we keep moving ahead. One should not get stuck up that, okay, this much fine, nothing more. One has to keep moving ahead, is it not? Just like a student, the undergraduate course is 4 years course, 5 years course. So one may have studied very nicely, say for first year. Now he cannot say that, okay, I studied first year very nicely, now I won't study. You have to keep moving ahead. One may say, no. One has to, pick up new subjects, handle or tolerate new faculties, one has to pick up new subjects. One cannot say, okay, previous semester subjects only I like, the next subject I don't like. You like or don't like, you have to move ahead, is it not? So the liking should not be directed towards, therefore, narrow channel that it gets choked up. The liking should always be for a principle which is lasting, is it not? Just like, one should not have a liking for one particular subject per se, that kind of will be problem, is it not, for a student. But he should have liking to study, is it not? Then anything you give him, he is excited, is it not? That's the point. That's the point. So, so that's the point actually. That's where we understand. That's where we understand that that we need to move ahead. We need to move ahead. And therefore, the Shastras explain how to move ahead. One has to keep himself, or one has to constantly feed himself about the eternality of the soul, the Supreme Absolute Truth. The eternality of the soul and the oceanic presence of the Supreme Absolute Truth. The oceanic mercy, the oceanic felicity of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So that's why it is explained that Maharaj is explaining that such a person who is conscious of the eternality of the soul and the Supreme Absolute Truth, such a person will never be disturbed by what is left behind. So just like in a journey, we are not much disturbed about what is left behind, is it not? One may see, while one is in a journey, one may see a very scenic place. One can take a photograph, moves on, is it not? Because you understand that I cannot be too attached to this because I have to move on. Similarly, one may see a very big mansion, it will be looking very beautiful, very rocking. But one has to understand I have to move on, is it not? So therefore, one doesn't give much consideration. It's just a glance and a click. That's all, is it not? Just a glance and a click and a hi and a bye, both together, So material world trajectories, we should always pass in that way, Is it not? This is a high also and a bye also. One, again, two in one, is it not? And move on. That's the point we have to understand. One should not be attached. One should not be attached because that attachment is going to be a painful experience. The more one is attached, the more one is going to be painful actually. So, so what to hold on and what to leave? To hold on something, you have to leave something else. That's the principle of this world. So if you hold on to the transient, the material, then our grip on the eternal is losing. And if you hold on to the eternal, then you don't get attached to the transient, is it not? So this is then you don't get attached to the transient. That's why that's why one should not be one should not get obsessed. Just like they explain, just like they say in dealings, say for example, in official dealings, say for example, they say that okay, they said okay, one should not go too close to say one political party. Why? Well, after 5 years, another will come. If you go too close to one, that means you are declaring to the other person that I am inimical to you. But then the next session, the other party may come. That will be a problem. That way. So what should be done? You should be good to everyone. It's like you should be good to everyone. Don't be obsessed to anyone. Actually, that's the point. You should not be obsessed to anyone. So we have to understand life is a journey. We have to understand that in this way we can understand that life is a journey actually. Just like we cannot be so we have to understand life is a journey. These material aspects will be available anywhere. One should not worry about it, is it not? Bhagavatam is explaining, the Bhumi is there to give shelter to us, to give land to us. Anywhere we go, we'll get Bhumi. One should not be attached, only this only is mine, Bhagavatam is explaining that second canto explains what is the use of making an apartment when there are so many trees all around in the world. So, okay, in one sense you may say, okay, this is talking about a renounced state of life, but actually this is talking about a very amazing principle actually. This is talking about a very intelligent principle. When there is support systems available everywhere in every planet in the universe, why are we so attached to why are we so attached to just one formation of it? Is it not? That's the whole point, is it not? So we have to understand that these needs are going to be satisfied everywhere, anywhere, is it not? So that is a transient principle. Just like one understands that okay, just like one can understand that as time passes, okay, say for example the old clothes get worn out and you get new ones, is it not? So if one is attached to the old cloth only, then that leads to a problem. So, but in life we follow, this kind of we follow, we don't follow even logic. We don't follow even common sense, because we get hooked on to the transient, is it not? We get hooked on to a particular stage of life, to a particular phase of life, which is not proper. Actually, we should get hooked on to. We should get hooked on to principles which are eternal. Therefore, one's focus in life should be to work on the blossoming of the heart, on qualities, Vaishnava qualities, service attitude. Now it said, okay, if you are attached to service, you may land up in a problem. Now somebody says, no. Like one time in the temple, there was this new recruits, devotees, and after their training, session for 1 year, and they were being allotted departments. So they were being asked, okay, what is your choice? then everybody was considering, okay, which department is very peaceful. So they were understood. So the top demand departments were account service, because in accounts you just have to sit in a chair which is 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and there is AC there, and everybody will come in a humble mood, because if you don't sign or you don't pass their bills, they'll not get money, service. Again. So that was a highly demanded service. But something like kitchen, where you have to, the tradition was a lot of energy, was the least demanded service. Now if you see this attitude, it's a very messed up attitude, is it not? Very messed up attitude. Very messed up attitude. So now, if the attachment is, so the point is that material facilities may facilitate the service, but one should be attached to serving. Not that, okay, I can only serve only if there is a nice, good-looking place, there is a AC, there is there is in between refreshments for me, and so on and so forth. So in this way, a sadhaka should practice, should cultivate blossoming the eternal principles. That's why the Shastras are saying that one should be attached to service attitude, not service per se, or specification of a service. And thus, that's how we can, so that's how, as a devotee passes, a devotee can relish the scenery around, and then he is happy that, okay, passing through trajectories which are giving different displays, and a devotee is excited about, because he is going to something, he is going towards something which is most wonderful, and therefore a devotee is excited about moving forward in life. A devotee is not crying, oh, I am becoming old. No, devotee is looking forward to move forward. Similarly, a devotee will be looking forward. Now, Maharaj, what Maharaj is saying? Such a momentum and inertia which is developed, that heart to serve, like that. That love which Maharaj has awakened throughout his life for Krishna, for the mission, that attachment for the mission. So his consciousness has already entered the spiritual world, and therefore there is no problem, is it not, in leaving things behind like that. So in fact, that which is garbage, should be left behind. Is it not? Then it will be, you cannot just carry all the garbage of the entire existence, or of the entire life on your head. That garbage will not let you move forward. You get pulverized by the weight of it. If you give it up, you can run towards Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj ki jai.